to Roots Me'ir. I'm your host, Yehuska Lang, and we're honored to have with us today Rabbi David Aaron, the founder of Israelite, an international organization based in Jerusalem's Old City. A best-selling author and educator, Rabbi Aaron has written 8 books on joy, spiritual growth, and personal empowerment. Welcome to the show, Rabbi Aaron.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Good to have you here. You have really built up an incredible organization, an international organization, which has helped a lot of people. What inspired you to do all this?
I would say I think everybody has a definitive moment. My definitive moment was when I was a child. I woke up to my mother screaming. And my mother was a Holocaust survivor. And I thought that she was having a nightmare of the concentration camp. And my mother was the type of survivor that never spoke about her experiences. I just knew that something horrible happened to my mother and that my grandparents were murdered and my uncle was murdered. And
because they were Jewish?
Because they were Jews. And there I was lying in bed. My father quickly calmed my mother down, and my mind was flooded with questions. Questions like, is there a God? And if there is a God, is he good? And if he's so good, then why is this world so bad? And if we're the chosen people, then I wish he chose somebody else. And I just had all these questions flooding me, and I just woke up in the morning and I didn't have anybody to turn to. I didn't feel I could talk to my parents who were new immigrants, my mother from Poland, my father from Russia. I didn't feel I could talk to my teachers at public school. And I didn't really do well in Hebrew school. I didn't like Hebrew school. I was forced to go 2 hours a day. My parents one day told me that I'm part of the chosen people and I've been chosen to go to more school. So, so what do you do?
How did you respond to that?
Well, so what do you do when you've got all these questions and you have nowhere to turn? So what I basically did is I ran away from my questions. And I had 2 escape valves. One was rock and roll. I just kept turning up the music louder and louder. In fact, one of my favorite albums said on the front of it, for best results, play at full blast. And it's true, I got the best results. I bought myself a stereo system with 2 speakers.
Yep.
When I went to bed, I would literally hard rock myself to bed. And so I would go to a lot of rock concerts and got myself into a rock band, and everything was just loud music. And then my other escape valve was comedy. My father loved comedy, and my father used to listen to this psychologist comedian, and I overheard one joke from this record that my father used to play over and over again, where this comedian said, if you keep laughing, it's been clinically proven that you'll never get an ulcer. And so I decided that I would just be funny, and I would be the class clown, and I would never be serious, and I didn't get an ulcer, I got a hernia. So
how old were you when your mother was screaming and you woke up?
I don't remember. I just remember being just bombarded with questions. I was an incredibly questioning kid. So, I always tell people that all these books that I wrote, I didn't write them because I wanted to write a book. And I wasn't being so altruistic that I was trying to help people. I was just trying to help myself. And so all the research that I've done, and I think the reason why people very much resonate with what I have to say, is because the questions that they have are the questions that I've had, and some of them I still have. And my life has been a journey, and I've been trying to heal myself and inspire myself and find a path.
One thing I seem to feel about most people is they don't ask the big questions. They're not interested in knowing where they came from, what the big purpose is. They're interested in their day-to-day lives, and they don't want to think about these big questions.
Well, yeah, I think we have created a culture that has successfully helped us become comfortably numb. It was what I was trying to do as a child. I think the culture is doing a great job in trying to help us. I think much of culture is a large tranquilizing pill. And a lot of entertainment is very much to try and distract us from what we really need to do and address to really be happy and to really find love and meaning in our lives.
Why are people so afraid to find answers? Why do they not want to, get in touch with themselves?
I think part of it, I can say for myself, I didn't believe there were answers. I didn't believe I could get any answers. So if you don't believe there's answers, then why go look for it and allow yourself to be annoyed constantly with these questions?
You had a reason not to believe that there are answers. You had the Holocaust to deal with, and what could justify that? Other people don't have the Holocaust. Why do they believe that there are no answers?
Well, because the news is generally bad news. I have a friend who worked in a news studio, and he came up with this great idea called 5 minutes of good news. It didn't go. Nobody liked it. And so everybody, like what goes on the headlines is generally bad news. So much of culture is constantly in our face, the tragedies and the catastrophes and the horrible things that happen in the world. It seems to be that is more common than, but what about that beautiful flower? And so I think a lot of people are in pain, and I think a lot of people have somewhat just hope to just get through life. Also, there's a lot of stress. People are trying to make it, and people are trying to make a living. So practically, what will all these philosophical questions and answers really offer me in life? I got to make a living. That's what I thought when I was a kid. I thought, one thing I knew for sure, I need money. So even though when I was a child I wanted to go into acting, everybody said to me, well, nobody's good. What's the chance of you being an actor? So I decided, well, I don't know what I want out of life, but what I do know is I'm going to need money for whatever it's going to be. And so I actually decided that I'd become an accountant. Now imagine, if I would have been an accountant, I probably would have killed myself at some point because I'm so not an accountant. Right. So I think a lot of people really feel very practically, and it's very legitimate, that I don't have time for this spiritual stuff. I don't have time for answering the needs of my soul. My body needs right now have to come first. And so there's something very legitimate about that struggle.
So we can ask the question, why does God put us in this situation which distances us so much from Him? He puts us in a place, we need to make a living, we need to take care of our families, we need to do A, B, and C. We don't have time for these big questions.
Well, that has to do with the answer to these big questions. Because part of the answer to these big questions, and this deserves a show on its own, is that it's about living a higher awareness in this real world.
Right. Is that possible?
Absolutely it's possible, right? Absolutely it's possible. And not only that, I don't know any other way out. We've got to find meaning in the everyday. And if we wait for meaning for those magical moments, they're rare. But it's not like that. I believe, and I've experienced, and I've actually, through the teachings of Torah, I've discovered a real daily way of practicing a sense of awareness and a sense of fulfillment in the everyday. We've got this beautiful verse, B'chol darchecha dehu, in all your ways know Hashem, know the divine, know God. In all your ways, not just meditating on a mountain or running away to India, but every single day can be an experience of the miraculous and the mysterious and the inspirational.
That is amazing. That's a beautiful thought. When was your moment of change? We know you had so many problems with the Holocaust and the big questions. When did you start getting answers?
Well, I don't even remember who. Must have been maybe Eliyahu HaNavi, I don't know, but God sends these messengers. I don't even remember who, but somebody said to me that Wednesday night there's these classes for teenagers in a synagogue in Toronto, where I come from, and they do classes about life and Torah. None of that interested me until they said, and there's girls. And I went, right. Oh, okay, there's girls there. And so being a teenager, I said, why not? So I went there, and it was great. There were about 100, 200 kids there, and there were these different options of classes you could take. So I was looking at the list, and one of the classes was introspection. And right away, I knew that's where I had to go. Because I was the class clown. I was the guy, I was the escape artist, and I knew that I wasn't looking in, but I was running away. And so I knew I had to go to that.
It required a lot of courage to make that choice, didn't it?
Well, I saw a girl walk into it that looked pretty attractive, so I thought, well, in the meantime, introspection might be, a rewarding experience.
God used the carrot instead of the stick to pull you in.
That's right. It did work. So I went in there, and I was surprised because the fellow presenting was this young, hip, funny, charismatic guy. And what was really strange is he had a kippah on his head. He had tzitzit sticking out of his pants. And he was happy being Jewish.
It's almost as if you didn't hear a word during the entire talk, but you saw this image in front of you of a person who could live in both worlds at the same time at peace.
You know, I wasn't happy being Jewish. I wasn't proud being Jewish. I didn't feel it was so chosen to be Jewish. I grew up in a Catholic neighborhood. I was the only Jew in the school that I went to. I was beat up for killing Jesus, and I told them I don't even know the kid. I never played with him. You know, I didn't feel it was a tremendous gift to be a Jew, and there was nothing to be happy about being Jewish. And I see a guy who, you know, is a respectable, you know, kind of a guy, modern guy, and he was happy, and he was genuinely proud, and I could see he was intelligent.
Right.
And so I don't remember what he said, but I do remember that I felt that this man actually might have some answers to my questions.
Right. It's amazing how much of an effect we have on other people that we're not even aware of. I mean, I don't know if he ever knew the effect he had on you, but that is incredible. You met this special person. You started to feel proud about your Judaism.
Well, so what happened was I went to these classes every week. In the end, I didn't meet a girl, but it became something that was more important than that. And they told me that they were doing this Shabbaton, this Shabbat experience with 200 kids out of town. Would I like to go? So I said, okay, why not? Sounds really interesting. So I had this awakening moment, because before Shabbat they did this candle lighting service where all the kids got together. There were like hundreds of candles on a table. And before we lit the candles, we were singing and dancing, and then all these kids went up and started lighting candles, and I lit this candle. And I said, you know, I've never done this before, and yet this seems so familiar. I feel like I've done this before. And then I had this moment where I realized, a flash to the rock concerts that I was always going to. Because my favorite moment in the rock concert was when thousands of people would hold up a match. And there you were in this stadium, thousands of people holding the match. I understand today people hold up their cell phones, but this is a desecration of traditional rock and roll. I don't know what to do about that.
Yes. What can we do?
What can we do, the generations? And I realized that was a ritual. And that ritual was a way of acting out that I feel that I'm a flame and that I yearn to be part of a greater fire, a greater light. But you know what? I didn't find it in the rock concerts because I wanted to connect to a power greater than myself. I wanted to connect to a community beyond myself. And at the end of the rock concert, everybody just disappeared, you know? And there wasn't a community. There wasn't this lasting feeling. And here I saw this is something that people do every Friday where they take out their light and they connect it to not only the community of Jewish people, but the historic community of Jewish people. For so long, millions of Jews were connecting their souls and acknowledging themselves as part of a greater soul, a greater light.
Right, but if people are so interested in connecting and being part of a community and connecting with God, then why do we live in a generation which is all about me, me, me? We're so much involved with individualism, self-expression, careers. It seems like people really don't want that kind of existence.
No, it's actually not the case. You have to remember that when I was at the rock concert, I wanted to hold a match.
Right.
It wasn't like I was willing to just watch everybody and melt into the light. I also wanted to also be holding a light. We live with this dialectic, which we can address at another time in a deeper way. There's something about us that needs to express our individuality. Just as our fingerprint will never be replaced and repeated, so too our soul print on the planet and in history will never be repeated. And we sense a responsibility to express what's unique about us. On the other hand, we are unique individuals that are anchored within and part of a greater collective whole. And therefore, there is this dialectic and there is this beautiful oscillation between the desire to affirm individuality and yet the desire to feel part of community. And it's really like music. It's like a string on a guitar. The sound is because it oscillates between two extremes. Those extremes are actually complementary opposites. And when you learn to be able to move back and forth very gracefully between the need to express individuality and yet the desire to feel that you're part of a greater whole, that's that balance, and that there's tremendous joy in that.
That's a beautiful, beautiful metaphor. It's fantastic. All right, I want to thank you very much, Rabbi, for joining us. I want to thank you at home for joining us, and I welcome you to join us next week. Thank you.